Good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining us with a little bit of Aramaic for the weekend. And I'm so glad that you've taken the time to join us in this. And we're continuing in the book of Colossians, chapter 3. And we were in the verse 12 and looking at what to me is just a beautiful, beautiful verse of encouragement with so many attributes that I get a little overwhelmed. And maybe that's why I decided to, felt like I needed to spend time on this, is to look at these attributes that in the past, as I have at least read them in English, I would easily just kind of read through them. And when I finished this verse, it was like, okay, I put them all in a clump together, um, not realizing that there's a specific reason that each one has been listed. You could have, he could have just said, be a good person, or he could have just said, be kind, or be patient, and all of those would have been great. But there's a reason when words are put there, and each word has a special meaning and relates to a special attribute that as we seek to um, grow in God, as we seek to allow His Spirit to mold us and shape us, I believe this is creating an awareness and can create an awareness in us saying, okay, how do I determine that I have each of these? And how active are each of these in my life? What can I claim that I show some portion of in my daily walk with God, in my way of interacting with all of those around about me? All of these are attributes that are intended to be shared. They're intended to be seen by someone else. You can't have these and stay locked up in your house. None of these attributes will mean anything to you personally. They only mean something to those that you are interacting with. And so that's what speaks to me. And so last week we took a look at this first word of wearing them, of being clothed, of having them being seen upon you. And the next or word I'd like to look at is one that in the King James has always, I'm sure, created a snicker in many young person, and a way of saying, okay, how do I even think of this as a more mature adult? And that is the word bowels of mercy. Again, knowing that the King James was written in 1611, that the time frame was very early in language. It was also very early in anatomy and the medical arts, and the understanding of the body was in its infancy. And so here, this word bowels being used. And it's always been just a point of when you read that in the King James, it piques your interest. And without the Hebrew, it's very, very difficult to understand. Without understanding the ancient languages, the Hebrew and the Aramaic and the Syriac, you cannot understand what a beautiful word this is relating to. And so, as we have unpacked this, again, we see here between the four versions, the King James, of course, is taken from the Greek, whereas the Etheridge, Murdoch, and Lamsa are taken from the Aramaic, and they translate this word as compassions by Etheridge and Murdoch. Lamsa would have mercy, and then, of course, the King James has bowels of mercy. So, knowing that we can unpack this and see each word, what I have found really interesting is looking at the words that the translators had to choose from, especially when it comes to these attributes. Here is the word translated as bowels, comma, mercy. And, but looking beneath this, you see the words that are following, and look at all the opportunities of English that the translators had to choose from. And this will be something we take a look at in our next lesson. But right now, we're going to focus on this word that's translated as bowels and mercies. Its root is the resh, Het, and Mem. And so as we go over the hyperlink here of 198.52, we open this up and it says bowels, mercy. Again, what does the bowels have to do with it? And in order to try to get an idea of the mindset of this time frame, we go to our friend Marcus Jastrow, who created his dictionary of the Targumim, which are the writings from that time period that relate to the history of the uh, the Jewish people, of the early Christians, of Jesus, and how they looked at these words. And this is what I find very, very helpful. And so as we scroll down to the Resh Chet Mem, we see that it comes from Racham. And this Racham word is one of the most beautiful, beautiful words in the Hebrew language. If you look across the other side, you see that it also relates to love. It relates to mercies, of course. You see that here, but more basically, it relates to, and this may surprise you, and this is where I think the word reference to bowels comes from, is the orifice of the matrix or the womb. And when I first learned about this in Hebrew, it was just a eye-opening, very satisfying understanding to realize that this is a love as a mother would have for her child while it's yet unborn. The child hasn't done anything to ever make her angry, other than maybe kicking a little bit or keeping her awake at night and indigestion, those sort of things. But in reality, this child is perfect. It's unborn. It's being formed within her. It's growing within her. And in the case of, when the a couple desiring to have this baby, is filled with hope. It's filled with expectation. It's filled with dreams yet to be fulfilled. She's aware of the baby inside of her and looks with anticipation of this baby being born. And there's just this love that this mother feels to this child that's being formed within her forms the basis for this word racham, which again, we really struggle to find English words that equate to this. Um, English language just doesn't have one word. It requires many words. And how do you describe that? How do you describe what a mother feels towards her baby that she's cherishing in her womb? And that is the word that's being displayed here. This is the word of Racham, one of the most beautiful words in the Hebrew language that God uses to describe his love for us as we are his children, and he cares for us. And all of the ways you could talk about the way that this word manifests itself in the way that God shows his love towards us. And so wanted to share that with you. One of the most beautiful words. There are volumes written about this word, Racham, volumes written by many authors. I encourage you to seek out some of those words. There's an author named Chaim Ben-Torah who has written a book of hundreds of pages on the word of Racham. And again, many others have done the same. But it will help you understand that when you see this word of bowels of mercy, that this is talking about something deeper than is that we can explain, deeper than we can understand, that love that God has for us. So it's not just mercy, it's so many different things. But yet here, as we see with the number of words in this verse, it is something separate. It is distinct from loving kindness. It's distinct from pleasure and gladness and humility and meekness and quietness and gentleness. It's a distinct love that exceeds all kinds of love. And it's the closest to pure God's love that you're going to be able to even comprehend or put into practice in our mortal bodies and with the society and the life that we live. It's something to truly, truly strive after, to have this kind of love um, for those around about us, and to let this be manifest in our lives. So thank you so much for taking the time to join us. Hope you enjoyed this next section of the lesson. Next week, we will come back and take a look at some of these other words because, again, there's beauty in each and every one of them. And I thank you for being a part of the study today. God bless you all. Bye bye.